My ex-husband's new wife tried to ban me from seeing my kids. In court, she claimed I was a bad influence. I played a recording of her coaching my kids to lie about me. The judge's face turned stone cold as he said, "This will not be tolerated." I never thought I'd end up in a custody battle. When I divorced my ex-husband, Derek, I figured he'd move on with his life, and I'd move on with mine. We were never one of those couples that screamed at each other or threw plates across the room. We just stopped working. He liked the country club life, fancy vacations, and business networking. I liked spending time with my kids, reading them stories, and actually being involved in their lives. When we split, I got full custody because Derek wasn't exactly the hands-on parent type. He had his work, his social circle, and, as I later found out, Sophie, his assistant. He saw the kids sometimes, but mostly, it was me doing everything: school pickups, doctor's appointments, homework, birthday parties. Then he married her, and suddenly, he wanted to be father of the year. At first, I thought it was a good thing. Maybe marriage had made him grow up. Maybe Sophie was pushing him to be more involved. Maybe, for the first time, the kids would have an active father. I was so wrong. It started with the small things. At first, I noticed little changes. The kids would come back from weekends at Derek's house talking about how cool Sophie was. That was fine. Whatever. New stepmom, new excitement. I ignored it. Then I noticed they were asking me weird questions. "Mom, did you really get fired from your job for stealing?" I laughed because I had never been fired in my life. I asked where they heard that. "Sophie said you just don't want to tell us because you're embarrassed." I told them that wasn't true. That I had never stolen anything. A week later, my daughter, Ella, 10, came home looking upset. "Mom, is it true you went to jail?" "What the hell?" Again, I asked where she heard that. "Sophie said you were arrested in college but that you don't talk about it." I sat her down, reassured her that it wasn't true, and then texted Derek, me, "What the hell is Sophie telling the kids?" No response. A few days later, I get a message from Sophie. "Sophie, I just think it's important that the kids know the truth about their mother. I won't let them grow up thinking lies." I stared at my phone, trying to figure out how to respond. Finally, I sent back, "Me, if you lie to my kids again, I will take legal action." She left me on read. Then they started saying I was unfit. The lies kept coming. Every week, my kids would come home with a new reason to question me. "Mom, did you get kicked out of college for cheating?" "Mom, did you really used to do drugs?" "Mom, do you drink every night?" It was like they were being trained to see me as someone I wasn't. Then, Derek dropped the bombshell. He wanted full custody. The custody battle begins. I got a letter from his lawyer, outlining why they were filing for full custody. It was insane. Claimed I was mentally unstable. Said I couldn't provide a safe environment. Accused me of neglecting the kids. Even implied I was an alcoholic. I lost it. I called Derek, demanding an explanation. "Derek, we just want what's best for them." "Me, you barely saw them before Sophie came around." Derek, things change. "Me, oh, so now you want to be a parent?" He hung up. That's when I realized this wasn't just him. This was Sophie. The moment I knew she was brainwashing them. The next weekend, when the kids came home, I overheard Lucas, 8, whispering to Ella. "You forgot to say the thing about her being mean." I froze. Ella whispered back, "I don't want to lie." Lucas sighed. "But Sophie said we have to." I felt sick. I didn't say anything right away. Instead, I started recording everything. The next weekend, before dropping them off at Derek's, I gave both kids little recording devices. Nothing fancy, just tiny audio recorders they could slip into their pockets. "Just keep them in your pockets this weekend, okay?" Ella hesitated. "Are we in trouble?" "No, sweetie. I just need to know the truth." She nodded. When they came back, I took the recorders and listened. And my blood ran cold. It was Sophie. Coaching them. Telling them what to say. "Sophie, okay, Lucas, when the judge asks, you say, 'Mommy leaves us alone all the time, okay?'" Lucas, hesitant, "But she doesn't." "Sophie, just say it, sweetie. If you do, we can get ice cream, and you can live here all the time, okay?" She went on and on, feeding them lies, rewarding them for saying bad things about me, telling them to say I was a bad mother. I sat there, listening to hour after hour of Sophie manipulating my children. I didn't cry. I didn't get angry. I just prepared for war. Courtroom showdown. The day of the custody hearing, Sophie was all dressed up, looking like some perfect stepford wife. Derek sat beside her, smug as hell. When it was Sophie's turn to testify, she put on the performance of a lifetime. Your Honor, I just want what's best for these children. I'm deeply concerned about the environment they're growing up in. Their mother has a history of dishonesty and instability. The children have told us things that no child should have to experience. She even managed to force out a few tears. Then it was my turn. I took a deep breath, pulled out my phone, and hit play. Sophie's voice filled the courtroom. Sophie, just say it, sweetie. If you do, we can get ice cream and you can live here all the time, okay? Sophie's face went white. The judge's face went stone cold. The entire room was dead silent. Then the judge turned to Sophie, his voice like ice. This will not be tolerated. Courtroom fallout. Sophie's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. Derek looked like he'd been hit by a freight train. The judge stared at them, his face unreadable, but the tension in the room was thick enough to choke on. Then, in a voice so cold it could freeze fire, the judge spoke again. Mrs. Sophie, would you like to explain this recording? Sophie stammered. She tried to say something, but nothing came out. Her lawyer, a sharp-looking man in a navy suit, stood up quickly. Your Honor, we were not made aware of any such recording prior to today. We request time to review it. The judge raised a hand to silence him. I don't need time to review it. I heard it. I know exactly what I just listened to. He leaned forward. Mrs. Sophie, were you coaching these children to lie? Sophie finally found her voice. I was just trying to help them express their feelings. Sometimes kids don't know how to. The judge cut her off. That was not helping. That was deliberate coaching. That was coercion. That was manipulation. Then he turned to Derek. Mr. Derek, are you aware that your wife has been doing this? Derek looked trapped. His jaw clenched, and he exhaled through his nose. I wasn't involved in that conversation, Your Honor. The judge's eyes narrowed. That is not what I asked. Were you aware of it? Derek hesitated. Sophie shot him a pleading look. He glanced at her, then at me, then at the judge. No. Liar. I wanted to scream that he was lying. That he had to have known. But I forced myself to stay quiet. Let him bury himself. The judge exhaled slowly, then turned to his clerk. We'll take a recess. I need to speak with both legal teams in my chambers. Then he looked back at me. You, stay. An unexpected offer. The judge left, followed by the lawyers. Derek and Sophie scrambled to their feet and followed their attorney. I stayed seated, heart pounding. The bailiff stood near the door, watching me like I might explode. After what felt like forever, the judge returned alone. He sat down, folded his hands, and looked straight at me. I've seen a lot of nasty custody battles in my time. But this? He shook his head. This is a new level of low. I nodded, but I stayed quiet. I have no doubt that you are the victim of a calculated attempt to alienate your children from you. He sighed. And I have no doubt that it will continue if something isn't done. I swallowed hard. So, the judge said, I have a question for you. He leaned forward. Would you be open to a complete custody modification? One that would give you full, uncontested custody, with 0 visitation rights for Mr. Derek? I blinked. 0 visitation? I had fought to keep my kids with me. I had never wanted to take them away from their father. I had only wanted to protect them. 0? Not even supervised? I asked, my voice shaking. The judge sighed. Supervised visitation is an option. But given what I just heard, I have no confidence that even in a supervised setting, your ex-husband and his wife wouldn't continue trying to turn your children against you. I swallowed, my hands gripping the table. I should have been thrilled. This was everything I wanted. A way to keep my kids away from Sophie's influence. A way to stop Derek from enabling her. But something didn't sit right. Something felt wrong. The lies go deeper. When we reconvened, Derek looked pale. Sophie had disappeared, her lawyer sat alone. Where's Sophie? I asked my lawyer. No idea. Then the judge spoke. After careful review, I have decided to grant temporary full custody to the mother. Visitation for Mr. Derek will be suspended until further psychological evaluation can be done on the children. Additionally, an investigation will be opened into the actions of Mrs. Sophie. I sucked in a breath. An investigation? Sophie's lawyer shifted uncomfortably. Derek looked like he was about to pass out. Then, the judge continued. There is one more matter we need to address. Ms., my last name. I strongly suggest that you and your attorney review additional evidence we have just received before you make any final decisions regarding long-term custody. My stomach twisted. What additional evidence? The judge didn't answer directly. Instead, he looked at Derek. Mr. Derek, do you have anything you would like to disclose to this court before I proceed? Derek's hands clenched into fists. He glanced toward the door, as if considering running. Then the judge spoke again. If you do not speak now, I will have no choice but to let the evidence speak for itself. Derek broke. I didn't know about the recordings. His voice was tight. But I knew what she was doing. I felt like I had been slapped. He knew. The whole time. And then, just when I thought nothing could shock me more, Derek turned to me, eyes desperate, and whispered, "She set me up, too." The cracks in the lies. I stared at Derek, my mind racing. She set me up, too. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. The courtroom was dead silent. The judge tapped his pen against the desk, studying Derek like a specimen under a microscope. Mr. Derek, clarify. What do you mean by set up? Derek hesitated, glancing at his lawyer, who looked like he wanted to melt into his chair. Finally, Derek swallowed hard. Sophie told me we needed to get the kids away from my name. She made it sound like she really cared about them, like she wanted to be a better mom than. He stopped, shaking his head. At first, I believed her. She kept telling me things about you that didn't make sense, but he let out a bitter laugh. I wanted to believe them, so I did. I clenched my fists under the table. He wanted to believe them. Not because there was proof. Not because I had done anything wrong. Just because it was easier for him to go along with it than to admit that maybe he should have stepped up as a father instead of letting some woman waltz into our kids' lives and rewrite reality. But that wasn't all. I could see it in his face. He was still holding back. The judge must have seen it too because he leaned forward. Mr. Derek, I advise you to be completely honest at this point. Any deception will not work in your favor. Derek's hands were shaking. I thought we were just trying to get more time with them. His voice was hoarse. That's what she told me. She said we just needed to make you look unreliable. That if the kids started saying they wanted to live with us, it would be easier to get full custody. I felt like I was going to be sick. But then Sophie started, pushing things further. He exhaled sharply, his leg bouncing under the table. She started making things up. At first, it was just little things, telling the kids that you had a bad temper, that you yelled all the time. But then she started going through your social media, looking for anything she could use against you. I blinked. My social media? I barely posted anything. I had an Instagram filled with pictures of my kids, some family gatherings, a few random selfies. That was it. What could she possibly have used? Derek continued, his voice lower now. Then one night, she was on her laptop, acting weird. She said she had something that would guarantee we'd get the kids. He finally looked at me. She had a fake police report. The fake police report. My stomach dropped. What? My voice barely came out. Derek nodded, his face pale. She showed me a document. It looked real. Had your name on it. Said you'd been arrested a few years ago for child endangerment. She told me she paid someone to get it. I gripped the edge of the table. Are you telling me Sophie faked a police report and tried to use it in court? Derek didn't answer. He didn't have to. The room was spinning. This wasn't just manipulation. This wasn't just brainwashing my kids. This was a felony. I turned to the judge, trying to process what was happening. Your Honor, if they submitted that. The judge raised a hand. I will be reviewing all documents submitted in this case. If what Mr. Derek is saying is true, then this will go far beyond a simple custody hearing. Derek ran a hand down his face. I should have stopped it. I should have, I snapped. You should have. But instead, you let your wife destroy my reputation, manipulate our kids, and almost cost me custody. Derek flinched, but I wasn't done. Where is Sophie, Derek? Where did she go? He hesitated. Then, in a voice so quiet I almost didn't hear it, he said, "She ran." Sophie disappears. The judge's eyes darkened. "Clarify, Mr. Derek. Where is your wife?" Derek swallowed hard. "This morning, before the hearing, she packed a bag and left. I don't know where she went." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "You mean to tell me that the woman who has been manipulating my children, faking legal documents, and lying to a judge just took off?" Derek looked at me, and for the first time in years, I saw something in his eyes I never expected. Fear. "She told me that if things didn't go our way in court today, she wasn't going to stick around for the consequences." The judge's voice was sharp. "Do you believe your wife may have fled to avoid legal repercussions?" Derek nodded slowly. "Then I'm issuing a warrant for her arrest," the judge said immediately, turning to the court clerk. I sat there in shock as it all unfolded. Sophie was gone. She had vanished. And now, she wasn't just some vindictive stepmom trying to steal my kids. She was a fugitive. The hunt for Sophie. The moment the judge announced a warrant for Sophie's arrest, the courtroom turned into chaos. The court clerk immediately made a call. Derek sat frozen, staring at the desk like a man watching his life burn to the ground. My lawyer leaned over to me. "We need to find out exactly what she did. If she faked a police report, she could have done worse." I nodded, but my mind was still reeling. Sophie had run. This wasn't just about a custody battle anymore. This was about a woman who had lied, manipulated, forged documents, and then vanished before she could be held accountable. And now she was out there, somewhere. The police get involved. The next few days were a blur. The police got involved quickly. They didn't waste any time pulling up Sophie's background. And that's when I got hit with the biggest shock of all. Sophie wasn't even her real name. Her birth name was Madeline Harper, and she had legally changed it 2 years before meeting Derek. She had a history of fraud. She had multiple social security numbers. She had been engaged twice before, both times to wealthy men, both times breaking off the relationship right before wedding plans were finalized. And now she was married to Derek. Derek, to his credit, looked like he was physically ill when the police showed him the documents. "I didn't know any of this," he kept repeating. But the damage was done. The police flagged her credit cards, tracked her phone, and questioned everyone in her life. But she was gone. She had planned for this. 2 weeks passed. I was home, trying to put the pieces of my life back together. The kids were still confused, still trying to understand why Sophie had lied to them. I had to be patient, but the anger inside me burned like a wildfire. Then, out of nowhere, Derek showed up at my door. I hadn't spoken to him since the hearing. I should have slammed the door in his face. But something about the look in his eyes made me pause. "I need to talk to you." I let him in. He sat down on my couch, running a hand through his hair. He looked exhausted, like he hadn't slept in days. "She called me," he said. My breath caught. "When?" "Last night. From a burner phone. She didn't say where she was. She wanted to talk." My stomach twisted. "Did she admit to anything?" Derek laughed bitterly. "No. She acted like she was the victim. Said everything was a misunderstanding. Said she ran because she was scared. That you were trying to ruin her life." I gritted my teeth. "What does she want?" He hesitated. Then, in a voice so quiet it made my blood run cold, he said, "She wants me to bring the kids to her." I snapped. "Are you kidding me? Are you actually stupid enough to even consider that?" Derek flinched but didn't say anything. "She lied to them. She lied to you. She tried to destroy me. And now she wants you to just hand over our kids." His hands clenched into fists. "I know what she did. But he stopped himself. And I knew. Even after everything, some part of him still loved her. Still wanted to believe in her. Do you have any idea how dangerous she is?" I hissed. "I know," he muttered. I needed to tell you." I wanted to throw something. I wanted to scream. Instead, I took a deep breath. "If she contacts you again, you call the police. Do you understand me, Derek? You don't go after her. You don't meet up with her. And you sure as hell don't bring our kids into this." Derek looked at me, eyes hollow. Then, finally, he nodded. "I won't." But I didn't trust him. A week later, I was putting the kids to bed when I got the call. It was the police. Derek had gone to meet Sophie. Without telling anyone. Without calling the cops. He had taken matters into his own hands. I felt pure rage. I grabbed my keys, stormed out of my house, and drove straight to the police station. When I got there, Derek was already being questioned. He looked up when he saw me, shame written all over his face. "She's gone," he muttered. She knew the cops were watching. She knew I'd be followed. "Of course she did," I snapped. "Because she's smarter than you." Derek let out a hollow laugh. "She played all of us." "No," I said, voice shaking. "She played you." And in that moment, I saw him for what he really was. A weak man. A gullible man. A man who had let the wrong woman destroy everything. And I felt nothing for him. No pity. No sympathy. No sadness. Just relief. Sophie was never caught. She disappeared, just like she had before. A ghost. A fraudster. A woman who had left destruction in her wake and vanished without a trace. Derek lost all parental rights. The judge ruled in my favor, granting me sole custody. Derek wasn't even allowed supervised visits. He had proven himself too reckless, too irresponsible, too easily manipulated. As for me, I spent the next few months rebuilding my kids' trust. I let them heal. I let them see that I wasn't the villain they had been tricked into believing I was. One night, months later, Ella came into my room and curled up beside me. "Mom?" "Yeah, baby." She hesitated. I'm sorry I believed her. My heart shattered. I wrapped my arms around her and kissed her head. "None of this was your fault, sweetheart. None of it." And as I held her close, I knew I had won. Not in court. Not against Derek. Not against Sophie. I had won because my kids still had me. And that was the only thing that ever mattered.